I know that many people are living in fear now because you are preparing your memoirs.
Oh, yes, my kiss and tell.
Well, there are people who really are frightened of it.
My bonk and betray. Yes, the rewards have got so huge now. I'm not going to tell all the old stuff that everybody knows about, you know, being Golda Meir's toy boy, and because everybody knows that. And she was a fierce and an aggressive lover.
She had needs.
She had needs. She had needs, and she had them met. More than halfway, I may say.
We have this freer atmosphere now. I mean, are there going to be some terrible revelations in the book?
Yes, I hope so, but if you feel that you are likely to be in it, then you are, dear. It can be averted about any person who has wittingly slept with me, or unwittingly slept with me, 30 grand in Deutschmarks. Large denominations, that probably, you know, probably hush it all up, or so, you know, we had a little kiss backstage.
Thank goodness I shall not be included.
Well, no, you paid up front, have you already?
Well, we'll have a whip round for that, thank you very much. Just sip your water while I introduce my next guest. Now, if there is an ex-army private called Pritchett watching, he'll be delighted to know that an old pair of his khaki shorts were purchased at a surplus store by my next guest. She wears them whenever she's in a hot country, so sadly they won't be on view tonight. But here, in one of her very best frocks, is Miss Fiona Fullerton. Fiona, is this another of Private Pritchett's cast-offs?
How did you know about Private Pritchett?
It was in a little story, I was told.
Yes, his shorts. Army surplus they are, and I wear them whenever I'm in the tropics.
Yes. Now, the Charmer, which I mentioned earlier, was a great success. Was it so much of a success that you were surprised?
Yes, it was, actually. It took my breath away that it was such an enormous runaway success. We knew it was going to be a good quality series, because when we were making it, we were surrounded by nothing but quality right through to the core.
Well, it was a very sexy role, a very sexy series. Is that the kind of work that pinning you down to now?
Pinning me down to? Well, some of the roles that I have been playing recently are rather sort of in that vein. But I don't think I've done anything quite as outrageous as some of the scenes I had to do with Nigel.
Even more outrageous, he told us when he was on the show last year, he hinted at some terrible prank that was played upon you during one of the... I'd like the truth of this. Tell us what happened.
The very first scene in The Charmer, in episode 1, that I have with Nigel, takes place in a brothel. And I am there simply to pick up my brother, who is having a good time upstairs. And Nigel is asleep on the couch, and he obviously misreads the situation and thinks that I'm just another tart. And we play the scene, and then at the end of the scene, once we're getting to know each other slightly better, he ties up my hands with his tie, and he yanks me over the back of this sofa, and I'm tied to this post, and then we cut the tape, and suddenly everybody left me. And Nigel went into a little huddle with Alan Gibson, and they started sort of conferring about some technical problem or other, and I'm there going, and Nigel said, "Oh, you're all right, darling. Not a problem." And that was it. I was left hanging there for about 20 minutes whilst they rearranged the cameras, and then we did the little insert and everything was all right, but I was feeling highly uncomfortable, I have to say.
Peter's lips went all moist while you were saying that.
I must have missed the yanking scene. I mean,
You missed it. What scene?
You were yanked.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I think you said, didn't you?
Yes.
Ignore it, then.
When Nigel was on your show, he said something like, "Good old Fiona, she's a very game girl." And I wasn't quite sure what that meant.
A sport, that's it.
A good sport.
Do you think, I mean, women like rotters, do you feel?
Sadly, I think they do. I'm certainly attracted to, or have been in the past, to a great deal of rotters, yes.
So you're in with a chance,
I suppose that's... You're not a rotter.
But Mickey at the video store is... no, he's not a rotter, really.
Yes, there's something about a rotter, I suppose, that we all find quite appealing.
Yes. A cad rather than a real brute, of course.
Yes.
It's not so easy to be a rotter these days, with all these modern aids to detection, I suppose, Peter.
Well, it's going to be very difficult to commit adultery when the British Telecom thing comes in, do you know they're going to itemise every phone call that you make? So there's
Like
going to be
they do in America.
a huge rush for those phone cards. But then again, you'll probably have to pay huge amounts of money to bribe someone to get a telephone booth that is working. It is a very destructive thing to do, I think.
Fiona, gentlemen traditionally prefer blondes, but you were a brunette in The Charmer, weren't you? That's interesting.
Yes, that was my idea, because I felt the character, I wanted her to look quite hard. And so I dyed my hair that colour. And it's extraordinary, the difference. I just felt that people were talking to me in a very different way. People would approach me in a totally different way. I remember I was sitting on a committee during last summer when we were filming. And at the first committee meeting, I was, in fact, brunette. And everything went perfectly. I made several salient points, and everybody accepted what I was saying, and everybody said, yes, indeed, thank you, Miss Fullerton, for coming along, blah, 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 blah. And then about 3 months later, we had another committee meeting, and I had finished filming by that time, and I'd gone back to being blonde. And it was as if I wasn't there. Nobody listened to a word I had to say. I was trying to put various points across, and it was like, all right, Fiona, anything to say, Joyce? And all this was going on. I mean, I don't know whether I was being sort of oversensitive about the whole thing, but certainly I felt as if they really didn't want to listen to what I had to say.
Sorry?
Exactly.
Now, what, Fiona, must a man do to impress you, then? Apart from being slightly raffish, I imagine. What sort of chat-up lines
I do
work?
like nice manners. Chat-up lines. I don't get chatted up very often, I have to say.
No.
I suppose because I don't find myself in that situation very often. One is sort of formally introduced, and that's it.
What if you were fancy-free and you saw a man you really were attracted to? What would you do?
Do you know, I think I'm too shy, really, to go up to somebody and say, well, say anything. I mean, I can't even introduce myself to people, really. I have to be introduced. I'm rather reticent in that respect.
Men can't handle that either. The rare occasion that's happened to me. Well, this week, anyway.
What, when a lady comes up to you and makes an overture to you?
Yes, I mean, it has
find that
happened.
hard?
And if you do not wish to know, it's very difficult. Don't you find, Peter?
Very, very, no, easy. Well, women coming up to you and asking you out, you either say yes or no, or maybe. It's dead. I wish they'd do that, and they're doing it more and more, not so much to me, but...
there is body language which tells you as much as almost as the direct...
You notice how I'm facing you bodily, Michael?
Yes, how do you notice? It is possible to misinterpret body language, though, isn't it?
It is, absolutely, yes. One hears a lot about keeping one's own space, especially at dinner, if you're on your first date. Apparently a gentleman can tell an awful lot about whether you like them or not if your glass intrudes onto their space or something. We've all got a certain amount of area at the table, and if you start sort of leaning over into his area and putting your glass or your whatever, then that apparently is a signal. So I'm always very careful to keep everything over my side of the table.
That's fascinating. Peter's more used to falling into their space.
falling into their space. And, of course, I'm a victim of passive drinking. Yeah, I don't drink a thing, but other people are drinking, and I get all these fumes.
Dettol.
Should be Dettol, yes, well, keep with the Dettol.